it be like to face a catastrophe so immense that it would change the entire world? Imagine being chosen to save humanity, having to rely completely on a divine promise while everyone around you doubts your actions. This is the story of Noah, the man who built a gigantic ark to face a devastating flood that promised to ravage the earth. How did Noah have the courage to build an ark amid the laughter and doubts of those around him? What did he feel as he watched the waters rise, knowing that only he and his family would survive? And what are the enduring lessons that his choices left for future generations? Get ready to embark on this epic journey of faith, survival, and rebirth to discover how one man became the origin of a new world. At a time when humanity was straying further and further from its essence, when discord and disorder spread like a dark veil over the earth, Noah, a man of unwavering faith, walked against the grain of the world. He was known for his integrity and righteousness, a solitary light amid the moral darkness that consumed his generation. While others lost themselves in their crooked ways, Noah stood firm, anchored in his beliefs and righteous practices. One day, in a moment of deep spiritual connection, Noah felt the divine presence in a way that few before him had ever experienced. The sky, which many saw only as a blue mantle or a ceiling of storms, opened up as a stage for God's call. It wasn't a murmur nor a distant vision, but a clear and powerful voice that resonated not just around Noah, but within him. God entrusted him with a mission of epic proportions, a challenge that would test not only his faith, but also his willingness to stand against the entire world. "Build an ark," said the voice, "as firm as the ground beneath his feet, for a flood will sweep away the wickedness from the earth." The project was immense, the task supernatural, but the conviction in Noah's heart was even greater. Despite how absurd it seemed to everyone else, he chose to obey, preparing for a work that would be remembered through the ages. With his heart pulsing with the promise of new hope, Noah began to plan. He would need to face mockery, overcome doubts, and gather materials. Every nail, every plank would be a testament to his faithfulness. And so, against all odds, the construction of the ark began. Noah faced a sea of doubts and disbelief that stretched across the horizon of his community. With each hammer strike, each plank positioned, the voices around him grew louder in mockery. "A flood, Noah, here, where the sun mercilessly shines down on our heads." The words of derision were like stones thrown in his direction, but Noah, with the vision of a future determined by God, remained unwavering. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, as Noah built the ark under the skeptical eyes of his neighbors. His hands, once dedicated to simple daily tasks, now moved with the precision and purpose of someone with a divine mission to fulfill. The ark, a giant of wood, began to take shape, rising not just as a physical structure, but as a symbol of faith and determination. This act of faith was not a solitary path for Noah alone. His family, though initially hesitant, began to share his vision and help with the work. His wife, sons, and daughters-in-law became pillars of support and labor, weaving together the network that would sustain life during the catastrophe that was to come. As the structure grew, so did the curiosity of some. How can a man dedicate himself so fully to a cause without any proof that it will come to pass? They wondered. Meanwhile, Noah pressed on, knowing that each hammer strike brought him one step closer to fulfilling the divine promise. As Noah's ark neared its completion, an imposing structure standing out against the ever-changing sky, a remarkable event unfolded. From all corners of the earth, animals began making their way toward the wooden sanctuary. It seemed as if an invisible force was guiding them, a call that echoed throughout the world, gathering species together for a common purpose. The animals came in pairs, big and small, fierce and gentle, each moving in a synchronized dance toward the ark. Noah, with a mixture of awe and humility, watched as this gathering of the animal kingdom took shape before his eyes. He and his family stood silently, witnessing lions walking alongside lambs, elephants beside antelopes, a demonstration of peace and harmony that could only be the work of the divine. This miracle not only reaffirmed Noah's faith in the mission he had been given, but it also served as a sign to all who doubted his sanity. Those who once laughed now paused to ponder, their hearts unsettled by the scene before them. "Perhaps there is truth in this man's words," they whispered among themselves, as doubt began to creep into their certainties. As the last animals found their place on the ark, Noah and his family completed the final preparations. It was a period of anticipation, a pause in the frantic sequence of tasks where every supply was checked and each compartment carefully arranged. The ark was nearly finished, and the sky already showed signs of transformation, heralding the flood that would soon change the world. The surrounding community, once skeptical and mocking, now watched with a mix of fear and fascination. The clouds on the horizon, once barely existent, began to gather with palpable urgency, tinged with a dark grey that promised more than just a simple storm. Noah, seeing the signs align as foretold, knew that the time to close the ark was drawing near. With an anxious yet steadfast heart, Noah called his family together for the final moments before they left the solid ground. Together, they watched the sky, each reflecting on the magnitude of what was approaching. Words failed to capture the whirlwind of emotions as they found themselves at the center of a new beginning, chosen to be the guardians of the continuation of life. As the first raindrops began to fall, light at first, then increasingly heavy and determined, Noah sealed the entrance of the ark. Inside, the light was soft, filtering through the gaps in the wood, while the sounds of animals blended with the growing rhythm of the rain. They were isolated from the outside world, but united in their purpose and faith. The flood had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the saga of humanity, taking Noah and his family on a journey of survival and renewal. As the ark gently rocked on the increasingly turbulent waters, the reality of the flood settled upon all aboard. Noah, though firm in his faith, could not help but feel the weight of the responsibility he bore. The rain drummed on the ark's roof like thousands of fingers tapping, a constant reminder of the storm unfolding outside. Inside the ark, life followed its own rhythm. The animals, grouped in their designated spaces, adapted to the unique environment, while Noah and his family attended to their needs. They distributed food, cleaned the enclosures, and maintained order, ensuring the well-being of every creature. It was an arduous task, but one that brought with it a sense of purpose and unity. The days became monotonous, marked only by the cycle of work and brief moments of rest. Noah, looking out through the small window of the ark, saw nothing but water, a vast and endless sea that had swallowed the world they once knew. Despite the isolation, God's presence was palpable, guiding them through the turbulent waters. As time passed, the ark transformed into a small universe of life amid the chaos. The interaction between species, some of which would never have encountered each other under different circumstances, offered daily lessons in cooperation and coexistence. Noah, reflecting on these interactions, found small signs of hope and renewal, a silent promise that life would endure. The days aboard the ark stretched on, each marked by the constant sound of rain against the sturdy wood that protected them. Noah, increasingly reflective, felt like a guardian of the old world, holding the promise of renewal in his steady hands. The anxiety for the flood's end grew, but along with it, a patience forged in the unbreakable faith that every moment had its divine purpose. After many days of isolation, the rhythm of the rain began to lessen, signaling an imminent change. The waters, though still vast and deep, had lost their fury, now moving with a calmness that suggested the storms had passed. Sensing this subtle sign of hope, Noah decided it was time to test the waters. Preparing for one of the most symbolic moments of his journey, he took one of the doves from the ark and with a silent prayer released it through the ark's opening, sending it in search of land. Noah's family gathered around, all eyes fixed on the dove's flight, as if, through the intensity of their hope, they could envision the success of its mission. The wait for the dove's return was a test of nerves and faith, a moment suspended in time where each second seemed to stretch infinitely. Finally, after hours that felt like days, the dove returned, carrying in its beak a small but significant olive branch. This sign of dry land and the renewal of life reinvigorated everyone aboard the Ark. Noah recognized that this was just the beginning of something even greater. The journey was far from over, and the next step would be to wait for the right moment for the waters to fully recede, revealing the landscape for the next stage of creation. The days that followed were marked by growing anticipation. Noah, using the wisdom that the long wait had granted him, decided to send the dove out once more, hoping that this time it would not return. A sign that the waters had receded enough to reveal the land. Everyone waited, hearts oscillating between relief and anxiety, for the clear signal that it was safe to leave the Ark. As they waited, life inside the Ark adapted to a new normal. The animals, perhaps sensing the imminent change, behaved with an unusual calmness. The daily routines of care and maintenance continued. But now, there was a new rhythm, a flow that seemed to align with the gradual retreat of the waters outside. Finally, the day came when the dove did not return. Noah and his family received this sign with a mixture of joy and reverence. It was the moment they had prayed and worked so hard for. They then prepared for the next great step, the opening of the Ark, and their return to a completely transformed world, a world they would have to rebuild from scratch. The moment to disembark, to set foot on solid ground again, and to face the challenges of a new beginning was drawing near. When the time finally came to open the Ark, Noah and his family stepped into a world that was both familiar and strangely new. The waters had receded, revealing a bare and malleable land ready to be reinvented. With their feet firmly on the still damp soil, they felt a mix of joy and responsibility, aware of the crucial role they would play in rebuilding the world. The scene before them was desolate, yet full of possibilities. Mountains and valleys that once housed cities and forests were now virgin lands, waiting to be cultivated and repopulated. Noah, always guided by his unwavering faith, took the lead, instructing his family on the first tasks of reconstruction. It was essential to establish temporary shelters, gather available resources, and plan for the cultivation of food, critical steps to ensure future survival and prosperity. As they worked, Noah reflected on the lessons learned during the flood. The destruction brought with it the opportunity to start anew, to build a more just and harmonious society that valued life in all its forms. Inspired by this vision, he decided that the first significant act would be the creation of an altar to thank God for their salvation and the new chance given to humanity. This gesture of gratitude and faith marked a new beginning. The construction of the altar was not just an act of worship, but also a sign that life would continue, shaped by new principles and hopes. Under the clear sky that stretched above them like a vast blue mantle, Noah placed the last stone on the altar. With his calloused hands, he carefully adjusted each piece, feeling the solemnity of the moment. This altar was not only a symbol of his gratitude, but also a milestone of faith for the new world emerging from the shadows of the flood. Around the altar, his family gathered, bringing offerings collected from the lands that were beginning to show signs of life. Herbs, wild fruits, and even small flowers were placed on the altar as symbols of rebirth and hope. With a heart full of emotion, Noah lit the fire for the offerings, and the flames rose like a prayer, touching the sky. The crackling fire was a promise of light and warmth, and as the flames consumed the offerings, a sense of peace settled among them. This was a new beginning, a chance to right the wrongs of the past and live according to the divine laws that Noah so fervently followed. The ceremony at the altar brought a new clarity to Noah. He knew that rebuilding the world would require more than just physical labor. It would require a rebuilding of hearts and minds. Inspired by this thought, Noah began to plan the next steps, teaching his generations to cultivate the land, to respect all forms of life, and to live in harmony. preparing the ground not just for survival, but for peaceful coexistence. Noah, always with his eyes set on the future, taught his family how to plow and sow, beginning the first crops that would nourish not only their bodies, but also their souls. It was hard work, as each piece of land had to be carefully prepared to ensure that the seeds had the best chance to grow. They planted wheat, barley, and a variety of fruits and vegetables, laying the foundation for a diet that would sustain their family and future generations. Noah watched with a mix of pride and hope as his children and grandchildren learned the necessary skills to cultivate the land, ensuring that the knowledge of agriculture would be passed down. As the crops began to sprout, bringing green to the grey world around them, Noah also thought about rebuilding a community. He envisioned more permanent structures, homes made of wood and stone, that would not only provide shelter, but also a sense of home and belonging. He taught his family to build in a way that each structure would be solid and enduring, capable of withstanding the test of time and future storms. As the first structures rose from the ground, Noah observed the progress with a deep sense of fulfillment. The houses, though simple, were built with the strength of community and a shared purpose. Each wall that went up symbolized more than just shelter. It represented the resilience and hope of a new generation. Amid the village's development, Noah felt the need to further solidify the new covenant between humanity and the divine. Inspired by God's promises, he decided to establish a lasting symbol of this covenant. The image of a rainbow, symbolizing the diversity and beauty of life, took shape in his mind as the ideal sign. This would not be just an ordinary rainbow, merely a spectacle in the skies, but one woven into the practices and traditions of his community. Noah taught his family about the importance of remembering and honoring the pact made with God. He introduced rituals and celebrations that would mark moments of planting and harvest, births and marriages, each accompanied by a prayer or blessing, reinforcing the connection between heaven and earth. As the community grew, each new generation was taught the importance of this sacred bond, ensuring that the memory of the flood and God's promises would never be forgotten. These traditions, passed from father to son, not only strengthened the community, but also prepared the ground for the continued rebirth of faith and mutual commitment, a legacy that Noah hoped would endure through the ages. As the years passed, Noah saw his children and grandchildren become rightful leaders, guiding the community with inherited wisdom and their own innovations. They faced challenges with the same faith and determination that Noah had shown, each generation adding its own layer to the foundation he had established. The village expanded, new families were formed, and the land continued to be cultivated with respect and gratitude. Noah, now a respected elder, spent his days instructing the younger generations, telling stories of the flood, the ark, and the early days of rebuilding. As his life drew to a close, Noah knew he had fulfilled his mission not just by surviving the flood, but by laying the foundation for a sustainable and harmonious future. He looked upon his family and community, seeing in them the continuation of his journey and the perpetuation of his legacy. The cycle of learning and growth continued, with each new day bringing the promise of renewal and the possibility of new beginnings. Every decision Noah made, from building the ark to establishing traditions within the community, proved that faith and perseverance can overcome great challenges. He taught that true strength comes from adapting to change and adhering to values that endure through time. Noah's story teaches us about gentle leadership and the importance of caring for one another. In his final days, as he shared his experiences, Noah left behind more than just memories. He planted the hope for a better future. Thus, Noah's life shows us that even in the face of great difficulties, we can build a better future. His actions teach us that with faith and teamwork, humanity can not only survive but thrive, passing down the legacy of a more just and peaceful world.